Hello and welcome to this video. My name is David Thorne. This is now the fourth video within inside of my variables section, let's call it, of my Python for Beginners tutorial playlist on YouTube. In this video we're going to kind of like summarize it all now and I'm going to put it into practice, and we're going to look at some code that's with badly written code. All right, the code is quite well written, right? It's done properly, but just the naming conventions, the variable names, everything about it is horrible. But and then we'll go over how we could write it. Okay, so what we see here is poorly written Python code example with bad variable names, right? And this function here, as we read it now, is we'll just try and try and decipher what it does. Function to calculate the factorial of a number. Okay, well, that's all right, but you know, really bad code would be this. Okay, so this is poorly written code, but really bad code is if someone didn't even bother to put the comment on it, right? And we go FCT NMBR. All right, super. So we see that NMBR is less than 0, then we're going to turn 1. All right, so if it's 0 or negative, we're going to go 1. And next we're going to set RSLT to 1. All right, fine. And then we're going to loop over a range from 1 to then the number plus 1. All right, and we're then going to update result to be then equal to result times by I. Fair enough. And then we're going to return it again. And we're like, all right, fair enough. This looks like it's doing the factorial of a number, right? Because it's incrementing every single time, and then it's, yeah. So this is, yeah, we're if yeah, this is the factorial. We're not going to go into it. Anyway, the next one is saying function to check if it is a prime number. Well, if we remove this, we're like, is PRM, okay? Is prime minister, is prum, is something. So if n is less than 1, return false, or less than equal to 1, return false. All right, that makes sense that if it's 1, it's not a prime number. If it's equal to 2, yes, we've got the first even prime number and the only prime number that there is, so we're happy with that. Else, we're going to go through the range, and if we get modulus I is equal to 0, we then know that it's basically divisible by something and it equals 0, so we know it's not a prime number once again. Else it's going to be true because it's only divisible by itself and 1, so that makes it a prime number. So this code is good, right? But just the naming variables are terrible, all right? So let's do function to reverse a string. So let's get rid of this because this would be terrible code now. So reverse string here is terrible. This would make me sick if I saw this, and I would literally do rm-rf just to remove this, and then probably reformat the person's hard drive as well for the other code smells. So we're doing an empty string here, and we've got a range to go for the length of the s minus 1, fair enough, and then we're going here, and then we're adding, yeah, okay, that's fine. It looks okay, but we know what's going on now, but why they would want to do that. And if this was being used in the code, we're like, what is this code doing? So here is the example of it. So n is equal to 5, super duper. What's n? And the factorial of n is all right, well, this is about the only good thing about this code, right? Is at least factorial of lets us know of n is this. This is kind of declarative now, right? We're saying that n is going to be this function, and we're going to give it our number, and it's going to output the factorial of. So this is actually not bad. It's about the only good thing that happened. Okay, the content of it, the code is correct, obviously. It does the job. So we know that the developer knows how to do mathematics and write some small algorithms and stuff, but you know, it's here. Else, if it's not, so we've got then we've got n is 7 once again, and if is prime here, then we see n is a prime number. Okay, we now got an indication what this is, and we're like, dude, why didn't you just say like is prime, you know, rather than doing this? You saved literally like 2 bytes in the name. Was it worth it? And then we see it's not prime. Okay, fine. And then we've got this other one, so we now see reverse string. So although the code here with the prints helps us to understand the code, it would have been far easier just to rename the code. So let's look at a good version of this now. So we see well-written Python code, example with clear variable names and concepts. And we can see calculate factorial. All right, well, we don't need to know it's a function to calculate factorial here because it's a function and it says I calculate a factorial. So even the comment can go, right? And the variable name says number. So we're like, hey, dude, this is going to calculate the factorial of a number. Well, we know that because it's a factorial, but the rest of the code is fine. We see result is equal to 1, and we are doing what a factorial is. I mean, this doesn't need, well, the likelihood is that a CI, a continuous integration, is going to check your code. It's probably going to say, hey, you don't have any comment on your function. But if you've got developers all follow good naming conventions for variables and so on and functions, you don't really need comments, all right? Next one, function to check if a number is a prime. Right, is prime number. Well, this is like, again, this comment is literally just waste of space. And we know that this did it properly now, all right? But the only thing that you could critique here is num. That could be number, but it's pretty explicit. You know, the number there is explicit for this. So you're kind of inferring that that is a number and you're reducing the space there. That's okay. All right, finally, function to, well, not finally, but function to reverse a string. All right, let's get rid of this again. We know it's a function, reverse input string, and then input string, all right? And we can see this, and it's nice here. This is really nice, okay? So now our main function, number underscore 1 is equal to 5. Okay, we're clear now that this is going to be 5. And we've got the factorial result of calculating the factorial of number 1. Okay, so the factorial result, I mean, it's literally so declarative. It's even telling us that we are calculating the factorial of number 1. So it's super, super clear. I don't think it could get any clearer than that. And then we're printing it out, but the print is also very clear too. So you want to try and be even clearer in your code than it would be if you wrote it out in a sentence. But we can remove a lot of the words that we don't need, right? And now we come to number 2, 7. So if is prime number 2, all right, that's declarative once again. We know that it's returning a Boolean now because it's got the is. And this is like a convention, has or is and so on is at the beginning. It's kind of saying, hey, it's going to be an off and on. It's going to be a Boolean or a binary answer. And we see here that number 2 is a prime number and number 2 is not a prime number. So this is very declarative and very clear. And then finally, input string. Okay, input str, fine. We see a string after it. The two kind of like help each other hand in hand. But str is kind of a convention to say that it's a string. You could be picky here to say it should say reverse string. But okay, let's let it go for now. And we've got reverse string is then reverse input string. But the name of the function call is really, I mean, you could take this and put it in there because just having this line seems to be of no relevance because you're never using it again. So in itself, it's a code smell because you could just inline the call itself. And it would save memory as well. Whether like a compiler type thing or whatever in the background would do that first of all, I don't know. But you're just adding another instruction to the CPU. So it's kind of pointless. The reverse string is this. Anyway, so this is basically now how to write good code, right? And you could probably make this code even cleaner, even more optimized, but there's a fine line between how many microseconds are you going to optimize or speed it up by, right, when executing, versus how many minutes are you going to lose in a developer trying to understand your code, right? So yes, we saved microseconds on execution time, and that might be money saved in heat from the CPU, dissipating heat or whatever, and so on. But a developer is way more expensive per minute than those microsecond CPU cycles or whatever. All right, so you have to remember, write clean code. Because most times the compiler is so clever that it will optimize it anyway for you. All right, so let the compiler do that job and write descriptive code that contains context as well, and write functions and methods or classes that give you context, and they also abide by single responsibility. So don't give something too much responsibility. Write nice functions that are as pure as possible and don't have any side effects whatsoever. All right. And these are all pure functions here. They can be called time and time again with the same number, given the same output, and nothing else in the system is going to be affected by it. The only thing that isn't a pure function is this one, all right? And it's not a function, but it's just an if statement because it prints, it sends something, it has a side effect. So this is coming in the future, but naming convention and also single responsibility are key words. If you're a junior developer, you're learning now, these are so important. This is why I've delved so far into this, because I believe it's the absolute fundamental part of the rest of it, right? If you can nail this, if you can get it down, you will get a good job, because a lead developer primarily, when he's looking at your code by code review, will just take this quick scan over your code, a very quick scan. And if he sees terrible code, I would instantly say, this does not abide to our coding conventions, commit, and then fail, right? And I wouldn't even look at any further. I wouldn't waste my time. And I would probably go to whoever and say, we need to get rid of this person, okay? Because who employed this person, first of all, is the question. Now, if they're an apprentice or something like that, that's something different. You know, you've got to sit down and re-educate the people on why best to use variables that have clear names and so on. Just like I'm doing in this video for you now, all right? Take my 15 years of experience of doing this, all right? I've sat at that stall, I've sat at that table with people telling me my code is crap. I've done that, right? And I've also done it in reverse, and I've upset some people telling them that their code is crap, and I've inspired other people by helping them to make their code better, okay? Don't be the one that gets offended by it. It's called the scientific method, all right? Learn to be better than the person you were 1 minute ago, all right? Always take on critique from someone else, and always learn from your mistakes, and always look up to other people who do know better, and don't be the most intelligent person in the room. Always try and find another room to go into to learn to be better, all right? With that said, I hope you've learned something on this one video tutorial, and if you've got anything to tell me that I did wrong or I could improve on my instructional techniques or even the code that I've talked about, please let me know as well so I can enhance my abilities too. Okay, I do this for free and I love doing this for you as well. Please think about giving me a like. If you didn't like it, please think about giving me a dislike, but it would make me feel so much better if you told me why, right? Because then I can improve myself, all right? Other than that, I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you once again in the next video. Ciao, ciao. Goodbye.